And we're back, solving paint problems that you may not have even known you had. This is the Repcolite Home Improvement Show, and right now, Haley and I are in the studio with Jon Potoski, our Benjamin Moore Territory rep, out of the Detroit metro area. Jon, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've got him tied into a chair. Jon wasn't terribly excited to be on the radio. He came over to visit,
yes,
I guess I should say, from the Detroit area, and I thought we'd communicated that we were going to do a radio segment. Jon was not on the same page as I was, and he was a little surprised to find out that...
It was all an act.
Oh, it was an act?
It was all an act, yeah.
Really? Oh, my goodness. You burned
I'm
me.
kidding.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
See, now, I don't even know what Jon's playing 4D
Dan's
chess
reality
with me.
has just exploded.
I have no idea what's happening. All I know is Jon's here. I've just met you because Repcolite bought the Technicolor paint stores in Detroit.
Right.
And those are now Repcolite stores. Getting the signs up soon. All of that's coming. And Repcolite's got 15 locations. And everything is kind of a little crazy right now.
Yeah, it's a
and
lot.
we're meeting all these new people, the people from the Technicolor stores. You know, our audience has heard Kevin Herman, the West Michigan territory rep from Benjamin Moore multiple times. You're kind of the counterpart to Kevin. You know, you're like good Kevin versus evil Kevin or something. You know, it's like that. And I guess Jon...
Or it could be like
Batman
Batman and Robin. Like,
Right,
why does one have to be good and bad, Dan?
I see only in black and white. Anyway, Jon, let's talk about you a little bit, and then we want to get to something that you feel is a process that's not being passed down to the next generation of painters. It's something older generations did, newer ones aren't, and you think it's kind of a prep work, kind of a process that happens through the painting process, and it will produce really
Flawless
good results.
Yeah.
But it's not happening. So we're going to talk about that, make the case for it. But before we do that, I guess just introduce yourself a little bit to the audience. How long have you been at Benjamin Moore? How long have you been in paint? Should we even listen to what you have to say? All of that stuff.
Do you know what you're talking about, Jon?
Yep. So I've been with Benjamin Moore for 8 years. And before that, I worked for another paint company for maybe roughly 16 years.
Like in a paint store?
Both, yeah. And I've worked in paint stores and I've also worked in outside sales.
Okay.
For other companies. And then I was a contractor prior to that.
All right.
Okay.
So you've been painting for ages.
Yeah.
And ages and ages.
Since I was 18, yeah.
Wow.
All right. So, yeah, I have no idea how old you are. I'm not going to ask.
Yeah, we didn't add that up. We should have
No.
been keeping a tally.
Yeah, I could have probably figured out the math. Anyway, you've been doing this for a long time, and there's something that you've seen that's a process that used to be employed on a regular basis, not so much anymore, and it's pole
Correct.
sanding.
Yep.
And, yeah, I guess just talk about why is it important? What is it? Let's start with that. What is it first? What are you talking about when we say pole sanding?
Yeah. Pole sanding would be basically prepping the wall in between each coat of paint that's applied.
All right, so let's paint it let's paint a picture for the customer, the listener. Not what I meant to do. That's just too punny. No, let's say I've got a wall that's already painted, and I'm going to put a new coat of paint on. You would say that before I put that coat of paint on, part of my prep work, I would wash the wall perhaps, do things like that. You're saying I should pole sand that wall.
Pole sand the wall. Now, there's sanding where you hold a piece of sandpaper with your hand.
Sure.
And you can sand patchwork and things like that. Pole sanding is where, a piece of sandpaper is wrapped around a pole sanding head. It usually 150 grit or 180 grit, and it's used to knock off any fuzzies that were left over from, the lint from the roller cover.
Like from that previous paint job.
Yep, from the previous paint job. It could be even from your paint job,
right?
Maybe
because we're talking about doing this in between each coat as well.
Every coat of paint, it should be done in between every coat of paint.
So I've got this sanding head with 150 grit paper, something like that. Got it on an extension pole.
Extension pole, yeah.
And I'm just zipping it up and down the wall. Now the sanding head
Sound like
pivots, so it's really easy to work with. How long do you think you can do a room?
A 12 by 15 room might take 3 to 5 minutes.
It's kind of like a
small
Swiffer,
investment. That's exactly what it looks like.
Exactly.
Don't confuse it with a Swiffer and clean your hardwood floors with a pole sander. That'd really blow.
Does not do the same thing.
Yeah, that's on you if that happens.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it works really easy. You can zip over the wall. So let's say, like I said, I've got a painted room. Maybe, there's roller stipple and all kinds of little fuzzies and stuff on the wall. So I'm going to zip over that with my pole sander, wipe the wall down, I'm assuming.
Yep.
Right. I've got to get all the dust off.
A Worcester dust mop or microfiber cloth.
Now, we should quickly talk about that dust mop. It's not, I don't know that we've covered it on the show
I don't
before.
think we've talked about it.
It's a triangular head.
Mm-hmm.
Again, snaps onto an extension pole, and it's got like all these little, not bristles. It's like a sponge, like a floor dust mop. It's got these little, what are they? I'm at a complete loss for words.
They're
fibers.
They're fibers, Dan.
Okay,
but I think
tried
they
to make it
also
more
attract
complicated.
dust. I think they attract dust as well, kind of like a Swiffer does.
Yes.
It has some type of that. I don't know how to say it.
Like it locks it
static.
in.
Yeah, I attract dust too. Dust, dirt,
gosh.
things like that just clings to me. But yeah, that happens on this. You can zip over the wall. You use it for drywall as well. Drywall sanding,
Yeah.
stuff like that takes that dust off. If you've got one of those, that's super fast. And we've got them at the stores. Stop out and ask about them. That's from Worcester. And yeah, just
it's a good
swing into
tool
the
to
store and ask about that dust mop for the walls. If you don't have that, a microfiber rag, something like that. You got to get the dust off, though.
Yeah,
if you go and
otherwise you're
sand it and then roll paint over top of that, you just made it way worse.
Yeah, way worse.
All right, so now I'm going to throw my first coat of paint on. You would pole sand right again after that's dry, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really
Because there
important to
might
let
be-
that dry.
Yeah, there might be some lint that got stuck in there from a roller cover. Again, some dust might have been floating around in the air and get stuck on the wall. You have this beautiful wall, and there could be two pieces of, schmutz on there, and
Schmutz?
Schmutz.
That's a technical term.
It's a technical term.
that is
For what?
I think that started in maybe the 60s.
All right. So it's all the little chunks of things that are on the wall. Could get on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little paint boogers,
Oh, Haley. You always got to go there, don't you? You always do.
Yeah.
We'll
And
stick
we're
with
not
schmutz,
machines,
please.
We're not machines. We're not rolling things
you
out
go.
perfectly, especially if we're not experienced painters, if we're not loading our rollers correctly and pushing too hard throughout that painting process. Now we get these little ridges that build up on the sides, and you see all of that when the paint is dry. And it's extremely noticeable, especially in the right lighting. You start to get little shadows that you can actually see exactly what we're talking about. Super obvious, and it's not attractive.
And that's what flashing is. When people say things are flashing, it's light casting shadows on the stipple, which the stipple is the bumpiness of paint when it's rolled on. And if it's rolled thicker here or thinner there, well, it's going to cast more shadows over here and less shadows over there.
All right.
So pole sanding evens out the stipple.
That's what I was going to get at. Yeah. We're in the studio with Jon Potoski, the Benjamin Moore territory rep, one of them out of the Metro Detroit area.
Yes.
John is new to us. We're just getting to know you, and you're just getting to know us, and you're trying to understand what we're doing in this room right now.
Into this.
Yeah, threw you right into this interview. And
Yeah.
talking about the pole sanding and how important that is on your project, because you've talked about rooms. I've got rooms in the house, but you've talked about a couple specifically. You don't have to go into the details, but
Yeah.
where you actually could touch the wall that they had just had painted, and it's almost like sandpaper.
Yeah.
It's just, there's so much going on. If you want that smooth finish, a really nice feel, and nice look,
Right.
this is a really relatively quick step in the process.
It's a necessary step, yeah, for adhesion. It helps paint adhere. It gets rid of the unsightly schmutz or the fuzz or lint, and just ensures the best look. It evens out the stipple, like Haley was saying. So, it should be done in between every coat of paint because we don't know when those things might occur. And it even could be that some paint dried up on the lid, fell into the paint.
Right.
Then it got rolled on the wall. Maybe we missed it.
Could be that somebody didn't clean the corners
Yeah, it could
very
be
well. Not naming names, but perhaps I've done that once or twice.
But I was taught this, when I started painting.
So it
by
was
the
like
old
common
timers.
practice. Everyone was doing this when you
Oh,
started.
yeah. I mean, you had to. If they caught you not doing it,
What'd they do to you? Like old school punishments were hardcore. I'm always really interested in this stuff. Like, did they smack you?
No, they just
They dump you in
I
paint.
don't know. They
Berate
were
you a little
a
bit?
little more stern. They were pretty stern. And as
Yeah.
a young
They were from
kid,
the old country. They knew.
They knew.
They'd seen stuff.
Yeah. But if that's not passed down to the younger painters, some people don't even know what a pole sander is.
No.
So I've looked at many of these jobs that have these problems on the wall. They could be rectified by a quick pole sanding. Again, 12 by 15 room.
Well, John, I think you're going to bring it back.
A couple minutes.
You know?
That's the plan anyway. That's John's intent.
Yes.
To bring it back. Now, I know the argument is going to be, well, it's too much time, takes too much time. Even though you said it was quick, I just washed the walls. I barely washed them as it was.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to wipe them down multiple times, all of that stuff. And yet we would argue that you're putting all the time in, you're investing in quality paint.
Right.
You've bought quality tools, hopefully. And then to not take that extra,
Totally.
20 minutes on a whole project, a half hour on a project, an hour on a whole project, that's just a one and out. Once it's done, it's done.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy it for years.
And once it's a part of your routine, too, it no longer feels like extra, right? I think that's the difference, is that because we're not doing it right now, it feels like, well, now it's this extra step. But it wasn't for you. It was just part of the painting process. So it didn't feel like you were doing extra work. It was just built into the job.
Right.
Built into the job. I mean, yeah, the contractors are not just painters; they're chemical applicators. So, looking at it that way, everything that you do to turn this job into the best possible job,
right,
is the best case scenario.
Yeah, and I think it benefits anybody doing projects on their own.
Absolutely.
Definitely something to think about. And if you have further questions about exactly what we just talked about, the importance of pole sanding. Whether you want to, I do want to ask before I say all of that, making dramatic shifts. I almost snapped my spine. I was dramatically shifted. What about just going to a better roller cover? You talked about, because Haley brought that up in some conversations before we even went on the air. I think you've answered some of that, but there could be people thinking, well, I'm just going to go to a microfiber roller cover.
So I won't have the lint, or,
right.
I'll wash out the roller cover so I won't have to do it.
Still have to prepare that roller cover. It still could leave off lint. And fuzzies and stuff like that. Yep, that's potential. But another big part of the problem that we addressed, just for those people who are thinking that, is we don't always apply paint evenly. We're not machines. We can't do it perfectly every time. If we get those ridges that Haley talked about earlier, this will eliminate all of that. It's a really nice safety step to make sure you've done everything you can to get the best possible results, and it can really pay off. So if you do have questions about that or anything else paint related, swing out to any Repcolite store, talk to the people there. We'll get you the answers you need. Jon Potoski, Benjamin Moore rep, out of the Detroit area. Yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be talking about trim, the anatomy of trim, all the different names for all the different things in your house.
All the words you're misusing.
Yes, we'll hit that next. Stick around.